on, StreamYard. And we are live. Welcome to the Restaurant Marketing Podcast, where we talk about how multi-unit brands successfully market at the local level. Today on the show, we welcome Nicole McCray of Rush Bowls. Rush Bowls is a 32-location health food restaurant serving blended fruit and veggie bowls, something I need after 3 days at a trade show. Nicole was actually one of the very first employees at the original Rush Bowls location on the Hill in Boulder, Colorado in 2004. I think that's what we say, 2004, 2004. From there, she went on to manage the location, followed by launching the wholesale division of the company, and is now the senior vice president, CMO, quarterbacks, franchisee communications, and probably like 10 other things that I didn't receive in a bio. Wow, that's a lot. A fun fact, Nicole once skied the Alps, skydived over 2 lakes, and bungee jumped through a canyon, all in the course of 24 hours. I want to see that broadcast. Nicole, welcome to the Restaurant Marketing Podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Super excited. Where are you today? Let everybody know. People always want to know.
I'm actually up in Evergreen, Colorado. So it's about 25, 30 minutes outside of Denver, up I-70 toward the ski resort. So kind of around 8,000 feet up here. We still got snow on the ground, but it's sunny today. So happy about that.
Nice. And what was the last thing you ordered at a Rush Bowls location?
Oh, Summit Bowl, soy milk, add raspberries.
Is that your go-to order?
It's been my go-to. That's been on the menu. It was a different name back in 2004 and for a few years, but that's been on the menu since the very beginning. So it's kind of one of the OGs after several, menu iterations throughout the years. So it's kind of my go-to, but I mix it up every once in a while, but it's my favorite still.
Nice. People ask me, what do I get every time I go to my hamburger shop? But I tell them the same thing. The French fries, duh. We always eat the French fries.
I mean, I have 2 young children, so there are French fries daily in this house. That's, one of the main food groups here.
Yes, I have a 6-year-old, so hot dogs and French fries are the ones. All right. Well, we are here to talk marketing. And as I told you before we went live, I don't have any scripted questions at all. I'm just going to roll at you. And really, we're trying to answer my questions, and hopefully other people's questions get answered as well. But if you're watching the live broadcast and you have a question about restaurant marketing for Nicole, just pop it up. We'll bring it up on the screen. We're happy to answer that. But Nicole, let's start here. What is like the top way in which you generate awareness for the brand?
Oh, top way. I mean, it's so tough because it's not, one dimensional, right? I think digital marketing is obviously huge. I think, that's something we're really focused on and really pivoting right now to figure out how to do that better since it's, ever changing. So, figuring out new tactics there. I think that's certainly important. Try to be more authentic. I think right now is what people want to see. Getting that authentic kind of user generated content is something we're really focused on. But I think in general, as a franchise system, just creating that kind of cohesive brand, the coloring, the logos, what our stores look like, the messaging, and, making sure that's kind of consistent at all of our locations. And that's what our franchisees are telling people. That's what we're telling people in our digital ads and all that fun stuff. Like, that's what gets the word out. And that's, what sets people's expectations about our brand when they walk in the store or, order it online or really anything in between.
Nice. So when you say user generated content, do you mean like guests? Do you mean influencers? Like, where is it both? Like, how are you getting that and what are you doing with it?
All the above, really. I mean, guests, certainly. I think one thing we've seen with a lot of our franchisees who've been really successful is, they've created these sort of VIP programs even where they, create these tiered systems of like how many times they visit their stores, they become certain levels of VIPs. And that really motivates people more than we ever thought. And so their VIPs are creating content for them with or without incentive. We certainly engage influencers, or sometimes influencers just come to us because we do have that kind of cool lifestyle brand that people want to be a part of right now. So, creating that type of content, even, our franchisees and their employees, the staff, getting them involved. I mean, I think that's a really great way that we found to keep people engaged and, keep them happy and wanting to serve their customers in the best way. Get them, making videos, get them creating their own, content that we can put out there. We actually currently this month they're doing a contest amongst our whole franchise network of like who can produce the best TikTok video. So, we're seeing things come in for that, the winner gets, a prize at the end of the day. So, all those different ways that it's not just this polished content, which, we always have, the polished photography and videography. It's never going to go away. But I think, especially Gen Z, the younger generations, they're kind of over that. They don't want to feel like they're being sold and that it's, too polished. And they want to see people really enjoying it and what they actually think about it, and if they spill it on themselves or how they use it in a day. So I think that's kind of what we're shifting toward more and more as much as possible.
What is the mix of content you're putting out there between like, let's call it brand approved or studio shot versus like UCG? Like what's that look like? How do you think about
Um, I think it's still probably, 70% brand created and brand approved and all that stuff at this point versus 30%. I think that's something we're trying to shift, but it's tough. It's tougher to find people to make those videos and to create that network. So that's something we're working through right now of like, how do we like build our network of those people? So yeah, I'd say it's probably 70-30 at this rate.
Okay. And then you find that are you using more like guest content or more like influencer content?
I think that's probably an equal mix, to be honest. I think the best thing is guest content, and we are lucky that we get a lot of people submit guest content. People are tagging us in their stories and in their reels and photos and stuff because, luckily we do have a very photographable product. It's colorful, it's bright, it's healthy. You can take it on the go. People are kind of doing stuff with it all the time. It's not just sitting at a table or sitting in your car. I mean, people are hiking with it. We do bow wow bowls for dogs. So, we get a lot of, submissions from people that, are feeding their dog the bowl, then they're eating the bowl and, things like that. So we're really lucky in that sense that we constantly have content coming in.
Listen, how do you think about the mix of that? You're like, in the month of April, I'm going to have 4 posts a week on Instagram. I'm making this up. Like, are you able to plan in advance where you're having UCG? Do you think about it as campaign based or not campaign based, or like how does it fit into the plan?
A little bit of both. I think we can't necessarily plan for it because we don't know exactly what's going to come in. Even when we run contests, which we do try to plan for, that's where we see, big bump and stuff too, is running those contests to try and get that engagement and, people submitting content, but we don't know what's actually going to come in. It could be a really busy day with or without that or not. So when we plan, we try to plan, several months out in advance as much as possible. We don't really plan for it. We just kind of sprinkle it in as needed. Cause if we plan for it and we don't really have anything, then we're like, all right, now we have nothing to post today. So we do what we can.
I get asked this question a lot. I'm assuming that you think about it a lot, is like, what's the mix of, let's use Instagram. What's the mix of feed versus stories versus reel versus stickers versus, I don't know, whatever other products Instagram's going to roll out next week? Like, how do you think about all that kind of stuff? And then also, like, how do you mix in the need that like people kind of want to see stuff happening as it's happening, not just like overproduced shots? Like, how do you think and plan about all that?
Totally. And I think, again, that's something we're wrestling with now, of like trying to figure out how to do it better. I think, as I mentioned, more and more people are going toward videos. So, we're going to have our photography. We're going to have those assets that, advertise our LTOs and show things like that. And, constantly be posting that stuff up. But like, we want to do more videos, whether that's stop motion, whether that is polished, whether that is UGC, or just quick videos of people in the store, or, whatever TikTok trend is of the day. Like, we're doing more and more of that video wise. So that's what we're really trying to focus on. And I don't think there's one right way to do it. Unfortunately, I think it's all, constantly shifting.
I want to thank Adam for being so friendly. There's probably not a right or wrong answer here, and we're probably all contemplating this, but I'd like to know where you're thinking today. Okay. When talk about content like Reels or TikTok, right? Are you leaning into like, hey, we got to do more memes. Hey, we got to participate in popular things that are happening or are you like, we're doing kind of totally our own thing? Or like, how do you think about the content plan for the brand in terms of like, let's call it viral videos?
Yeah, I think that's a great question too. Actually, I think there's a fine line, right? Like, you want to be up on the trends, but you don't want to completely depart from your brand identity. And I think different platforms give you an opportunity to do different things. Facebook and Instagram kind of, you can stay a little bit more structured. I think TikTok is like all over the place with the wild wild west, like, I think you have to like figure out those trends. And we, honestly haven't figured out how to do it yet. I don't know if anybody has. I think some of it is just luck and getting ahead of it a little bit and, scrolling constantly and saying, how can we hit it? And we had a video a couple years ago at this point that one of our store employees that were at our original location here in Boulder, they posted up, and to this day, I still don't understand it. I was not up on the trend. Don't get it. Don't know why it went viral, but it had like 2 million hits. And I'm like, what? And, then everybody went about their business and the next trend came on. So, to like go viral and stay viral is like, I don't know. It's something we're trying to figure out, but I don't know if there is a way to figure it out. I think some of it is just luck.
I got asked a very similar question hosting a panel the other day at the International Restaurant and Food Service Show. And I said, look, I spend a lot of time thinking about this. I wrote a book called TikTok for Restaurants. Like, I like to believe that I know the secrets. I don't know that there are any secrets, but my general advice to people is decide what's the type of content you want to put out there and be consistent in putting it out there. Like, and that's probably the best plan of all.
Yeah. And I think that goes for everything in your brand and everything you do with your brand, right? There's always going to be these external voices and constant feedback from your customers, from your franchise partners, from all of them. And not saying don't listen, and definitely be able to pivot. But again, you can't completely depart from your brand just because someone says something, right? Like, you have to have that direction and that vision and say, this is what we do. This is our messaging. This is like how we want to be perceived and, project ourselves to the world and do those things that support that, effort and that goal. And, again, be agile enough to shift when you need to, but like, don't just be reactionary to someone saying like, I didn't like that you did this, or we should really be doing it this way. Or in my market, this is how things really go. So I think there's that fine line of that too.
I think people have a tendency, myself as well, to like go look at last month's worth of content and be like, ooh, this video did really well. We need to do more of that. But like, is that really the way to look at it? Do you got to look at that over a 90-day period? Like, how do you think about what content types to do when you're reviewing performance?
Yeah, I mean, and I think that is something actually we're trying to do a better job of too, is like looking at the data and looking at what did well and looking at why too. Because like you said, something could have done well, but, that could be the time it was posted or just the day of the week or because of whatever trend or because, something was posted on the news that day. Like, who knows why it did well. So I think it's, instead of looking at one individual video or reel or post or whatever that did well, looking at data over the course of a month of like, okay, similar things did well, there must be something to it. Or was this just a one-off thing? Like, and that's not just for social media either. I mean, we had 2 new LTOs that we launched last year, one in the spring and one in the fall. And we were excited about both of them. And actually one that we were more excited about, I think the marketing was awesome. Like, it looked so good. People loved the flavor. It kind of tanked. Like, it wasn't a total dud, but it didn't do what we thought it did. And then the other one just like exploded, did phenomenally, was one of our biggest sellers all year. So we're like, okay, interesting. But we didn't want to completely give up on the one that we really liked and thought would do well. So we're like, what if we just switched the timeframes this year? So we're going to keep both LTOs, but let's learn. And so, we're literally just switching them. And one is going to be in the spring and one is going to be in the fall, and see if it actually is the product or if it is the time of year or, some other external factors. So, I think that will give us some interesting data to look toward as well on, what people are responding to and why.
I love your year-long A/B test. That's awesome.
Yeah. Only in a, small growing business do you get to do stuff like that.
Let's talk about LTOs for a second. What are some secrets about LTOs that probably most brands don't think about?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think, we haven't really uncovered any secrets. I think like, that's what I mean. Like, when I say like, we're kind of still testing the waters too. I think, one thing we keep in mind is some things are just loss leaders, right? But I think it's always important to have LTOs running, even if they're not really huge hits, like, our detox bowl, it's done well some years. It's, has kind of flops other years for whatever reason, but it aligns with that new year, new you kind of resolution. We can do like cool marketing pushes around it. So I think, we find that it's really important to constantly have those things running. I think it's also an awesome opportunity just to like test the waters with stuff like, stuff that you're not ready, that you might love and you want to just put on your menu and like get it out there to everybody. But like, you don't know if it's actually going to sell, kind of like what I just talked about with that one LTO, like who knows? But so it's a really good way to like figure out what people are responding to, because we're not the end all. We do R&D and we have been doing this for 18 years. And, we feel like we know best, but it doesn't really matter if the customer doesn't actually want to buy it. So, test the waters with your LTOs, get creative, throw stuff out there. We've tested spicy bowls. Let's, if there's a trendy thing going on, like, what was it? Mushrooms or spirulina or cauliflower. Like, I think those are the areas that you can play with and kind of have fun with it a little bit. But, secret for transforming your business, I don't know.
How do you measure the effectiveness of an LTO?
I think like anything else at the end of the day, it's how it sells is our number one metric, certainly. But I think, I think there are other metrics of like how creative we can get on social media with the campaigns. Like if it's a really pretty bowl, it's a really colorful one, or, it has a fun name. Like one of ours is the Mai Tai bowl. So like, how can we get tropical with it? Like how can we engage customers and get them to show us like how they're using it, putting fun umbrellas in it. So I think, certainly sales data, but also, what kind of engagement are we getting from the marketing efforts that we're putting behind those two of, are we getting that UGC that we talk about?
I had a brand I worked with, a multi-unit brand, and the marketing and marketing team was like, let's do an LTO every other month. Easy for marketing to write checks that operations has to cash for sure, right? And so we did it for a year and a half or whatever. And then the culinary team came back and said, we don't want to do these anymore. We're looking at the sales numbers and they suck. And I was like, well, I don't know that you can just look at sales numbers and judge whether this is worthwhile or not. So we actually ran the numbers. We took 5 LTOs and we looked at what their engagement was like in social media. Like, did people click on this, like it, share it, whatever? Mm-hmm. And then we took that and laid it against overall sales. And then we also laid that against frequency. And it was funny. The item that had sold the least, the one that sold the least amount, did not get the most amount of engagement, but every single person who bought that was their 5th time that year. So the frequency we got from this one that didn't sell very well was insane. Mm-hmm. And the lesson that we learned on the backside of it was like, well, if you can measure retention, revenue, and engagement, like that was the perfect mix to know whether the LTO was worth doing or not.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's extremely interesting data for sure.
Well, by the way, ice cream French fry sundae was not a winner. Just
that's shocking given, the frosty French fry trend. So
you don't have to take that one to the R&D department. We'll tell you not to do that once. When you think, let's switch a little bit here. When you think about new guest acquisition, and I don't mean awareness, I mean literally like getting somebody to make their first purchase. Mm-hmm. What have you found to be really effective? Is there a channel? Is there a playbook? Like what works for you?
I mean, I think, you probably noticed a trend in what I speak. I don't think there's a playbook. I don't think it's one-dimensional for anything. I think, something that we've found to be just the ultimate is incentivizing them to come in and try it, like whether that's deep discounts, whether that's even getting out into the community on a local level and, sampling events and things like that, couponing there. I think that's still to this day, like the best way to do it. People want an incentive to try it. And sometimes it has to be deep. Like sometimes it's a free bowl. And, I think local area marketing, like with those boots on the ground effort is something that we're like constantly pushing because, with the digital, with, all this other stuff you can do with TV, whatever's out there these days, still like what we see the best return on is going door to door, handing out those coupons, getting out, partnering with gyms, with dental offices, apartment complexes, whatever it is. And literally like saying like, hey, try this product, or, hey, here's a free card to come in tomorrow, or like hosting events at the store where people can try it because we, are super confident in our actual product and, that we're best of breed. So once we get it in people's mouths, they're hooked. I mean, they literally like build it into their routine. So I think it's worth it for us to offer that deep discount, that deep incentive, whatever it is initially, because we know they're going to come back. Like it's just so rare that they don't.
All right. I have so many questions. I'm going to pare this down into buckets. Okay. Let's just talk about discounting, or incentivizing. How do you measure the effectiveness of that on whatever it is, LTV or, average order value, or like anyway, how do you measure the effectiveness of discounting as acquisition?
You mean like as a repeat customer or?
Well, like, okay, so most people would be like, well, I don't want to give somebody a discount because they're just going to come get the free thing and never come back. Like, how do you, when somebody says that to you, how do you measure against that?
I don't know if you can. I think there's so many things in marketing that like it's tough to measure a direct ROI, but for at least that initial, experience, they mark the coupon, they come in, like they have the coupon, it worked, they came in. So, they're trying it for the first time. Then it's up to you to give them that awesome experience of customer service, getting them their bowl in, less than 4 minutes, and just making sure they leave with a smile so they come back. You can't guarantee they're going to come back. You definitely can't. And, we certainly don't want to incentivize people over and over again. And that be the only way people come in of like, oh, they discount so much. I'm just going to like wait for the next discount before I go in again. So I think that's where we have to be careful of like how often we're doing that stuff. But, we haven't run into too many issues where that's the case, because like I said, typically, we pride ourselves on people loving the product. We pride ourselves on our customer service and then getting that like awesome experience that they build it into their routines. People kind of think of us as like a cold product that, we have these huge seasonal shifts, and, you don't even see that. Like we have people who come in post workout, or it's their morning ritual. Like it's more of like, I keep saying they build it into the routine, and that's really a thing. So, I think we measure it in that way, and, it's not a direct metric certainly, but that's kind of what we see.
Awesome. All right. Now you said that you do local area marketing, boots on the ground. Literally, you're talking about like handing out actual physical flyers or bag stuffers or whatever, right? We're not talking digital. We're talking manual work, right?
Yeah. And I mean, it's a combination of things. I'm not saying we don't do the digital side either. We
Yeah.
constantly have digital efforts going from a global perspective and, from a local perspective. But, there's nothing like, touching and feeling your community. Like there just isn't. So, it's again, partnering with those local businesses that are also, small business owners, typically, the gyms, the doctor's offices, whatever it is that, we found success with, and, going door to door. It doesn't have to be door to door. We do direct mailers and things like that, but, farmers markets and, all these community events and showing, especially, we're not McDonald's. People don't know us as like this big chain product. It is like, hey, I'm the local franchisee. This is my business. I'm part of the community. I am, a local business owner. Come support me. And, when you come into the store, you're going to talk to me, and, you're supporting me and my family. And, people care about that stuff still. So, a lot of these locations, it's, single units when they get started. And we do rely a lot on the franchisees to do a lot of those boots on the ground efforts, with our support, of course, providing the tools and the guides and the assets and all that stuff. But, we haven't found that there's anything that works quite as well.
So how do you teach that to somebody? Like, because if you called me and said, all right, Rev, I need to go knock on 10 doors today, I'd be like, I don't want to do that. How do you get around that?
Yeah. And a lot of people don't. I think, I don't know if you do teach it. Some people have the personality for it and some people don't, but, we're there to, again, we provide a lot of guides, a lot of tools, a lot of literal, spreadsheets on like, these are, the people in your area that we think you should target, and our locations are in a lot of different places. We like to be near college campuses and, urban densely populated areas, but some of them are in suburbs, and, they work with us to figure out what areas they want to target in their community. And as far as teaching it, I think there's some handholding. We have something called NROs, new restaurant openings, from the day they sign a lease to, well after they open, to check in with them every week and see what's working and what's not, how we need to pivot, how they're liking it, what they've done, what they're seeing. Are they getting a response? Are they seeing those coupons coming back? What's going on in their community? So, I think we also encourage people to, if you are not that person that doesn't want to go door to door, find an employee that can do it, or engage your community. We have guides that, for brand ambassador programs, whether, works really well on college campuses, but even outside of that, engage the customers that like your product, or, people that you can kind of get on social media or whatever to be those people for you, that are going to be like advocates for your brand of like, hey, have you tried Rush Bowls? Like come out, like hand out t-shirts, hand out coupons, hand out swag, like all that fun stuff. There's always a way to do it.
Nice. Austin's got a question here I'm going to pull up on screen that's in line with the conversation we're having. He's asking, with all these different channels for marketing, where do you find most of your new customers are learning about you from? Is it this? Is it the boots on the ground effort? Is there another way?
Yeah, I think it depends on the market. I think, certainly that's a big part of it. Like we said, like there's nothing quite like it. I think, we do put a lot behind, digital marketing, and we do see a lot of click through and things like that. So, um, I don't have solid data of like, this is absolutely by far our most successful thing that we do. But I know that when we see people get out there in their community and do this stuff, that's where we really see their sales start to tick up.
Nice. What other like local store marketing are you doing? You're doing ads, search? Is there something, flyering? What else works?
Everything. Yeah. I mean, there's, like I said, we constantly have, global ads running, and they're geo-targeted to, the areas around our store. So there's constant brand awareness ads going on top of, whatever other ads we run for LTOs or any seasonal things like that, or whatever promos we have going on. They also, do that from their local accounts. We are unique, or maybe not, but, they have their own local social media accounts too, that they can run all that stuff from to get really granular. Because we always say, we can give you all of these things that we've seen work on like kind of a mass scale, but we don't know your community like you do. Nobody does. That's why you're opening there. That's why we rely on you to kind of like work with us and collaborate on what is going to work. Like, we're never going to say this is a foolproof plan. Like, if we tell you something and you go out there and do it and you come back to us and you're like, it's just not working, I think we should put dollars toward this. Let's try it. So, I think, certainly mailing stuff has worked in a handful of our markets, but we've also like pushed that out and had people do it in other ones that it's completely flopped. So you just don't know. So yeah, I think, couponing, mailing, certainly partnering with businesses, the deep discounts, cross promotion with other businesses, making sure that you're getting awareness that way. Sponsorships, we really tell people to get involved with like schools are a big one, whether it's colleges or even, high schools and things like that, getting involved with the sports teams. I think just creating those relationships that like, people get invested, and that's when they come back.
I love it. All right, as we're sort of starting to get into the wrap up here, we have not talked about retention at all. Give us like 2 minutes on either your favorite retention channel or retention tactic. Like, how do you get people to buy more Rush Bowls other than they look great, the service is good, and they taste delicious? We'll take those as givens.
I mean, what else do you need? No, I think it is, we talked about incentivization earlier, and I think it comes down to that. And this is something that we're trying to, grow right now, is loyalty. I think that's such a big thing right now, is really fine tuning your loyalty to not only incentivize people, but to remind them, send them push notifications, get them in on their birthday, like have them build up those points, like all that stuff that like really shows that you care and that they're like working towards something, and being a part of the brand. And I think that plays into as well. I mentioned kind of the VIP programs, and just like making the customer feel special, and that they're like, get them to buy into your store, not just, the product, but like you, the business, the brand, the store. Like, we really think of ourselves not just as a restaurant, as we think of ourselves as like a lifestyle brand. And, that's what we try to get people to buy into. And, I think there's a few different ways to do that. But I think at the end of the day, it's just making people feel seen and getting them to kind of like constantly be aware that you're there, whether it's on their phone, whether it's in the store, whether it's on social media, kind of stay in their face a little bit.
All right. So staying top of mind. What's your favorite marketing channel for staying top of mind with guests?
I mean, I think with that, it's just, outside of loyalty, I assume, I think it's, it's got to just be the social media channels. I think that's our easiest, fastest, most direct way. Everybody's on social media, whether they say they are or want to be or not. Like, they're out there scrolling, and whether they're looking for you or not. I mean, again, keeping top of mind, like there's so many cool things you can do to geo-target and really like find the right demographic and go after those customers that, you really want in your stores. That it's probably the most effective way to do it, to stay on top of mind in that way. Cause that's what people are staring at all the time, is their phone.
When you say that, are you talking about a mix of like organic and ads, or is it one or the other?
100%. Yeah. A mix. Certainly, like, the more organic, the better. But, I think it's silly to say that there's no pay to play in this world.
Awesome. Well, Nicole, this is awesome. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you on behalf of everybody that got a chance to listen to the show today. If you have questions for Nicole, what would be the best way for people to get in touch with you if they had any questions?
You can, email me, Rev. You have my email address if you want to blast that out there. I mean, come at me.
And we are live on LinkedIn, so could people just message you on LinkedIn?
That works as well.
God bless. And if they're going to Rush Bowls today for the first time, what do they need to order?
I mean, Beach Bowl is kind of the tried and true. That's by far our biggest seller. So it's kind of a win-win.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Nicole. Appreciate you being here. Thanks for it was a great show. Lots of good insights. One of my favorite things about these shows is the answers are never the same. They're always the same and they're always different. So it's powerful. Thank you for sharing that. If you're listening to this show on audio, please subscribe to get all the new episodes. And if you're hearing this in any way, shape, or form, new, live or not, share this with somebody else who cares. Nicole, thanks so much. Make it a great, tasty day.
Thanks, Rob.